Hey, it's Drybear. Today, I'd like to address a question that I'm getting often during my live streams for Tower Fantasy. What character should I focus on and invest in? How should I build them? And what would a team comp look like that I can work towards and become the strongest that I can? So in today's video, I'm going to answer all those questions. We're going to take all of the characters that exist in Tower Fantasy right now. We're going to show you which ones are the best, how to build them, and then give you some example team comps that you can use, as well as what the theoretical idea is behind making a team comp in Tower Fantasy and what you should be aware of. So let's go. But first, if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Who knows? I might even be streaming right now. Now, I've created a cheat sheet that you can use that has all of the characters plus some of the best team comps that you can make of the characters that exist now. A couple disclaimers just so we're all on the same page. When I say a character, the characters are the weapon and the weapon is the character in Tower of Fantasy, right? So if you're looking at Ice Claymore, that is Meryl, and Meryl is the Ice Claymore. They're not really separable. So we're going to talk about the characters themselves, as you do have that reference rather than talking about the weapon itself. But if I say, you know, the negating cube, that's 0. And if I say 0, it's the negating cube. So when you look to make these weapons, just kind of make that connection in your head. Another thing to note, in gacha games, this is kind of the thing. I'm sorry if you like to be making builds out of whatever you want, but rarity is king in gacha games. And so the SR or the purple weapons, and then of course the blue weapons, just get infinitely outscaled by the SSR, the legendary weapons, later on in the game. And so I will include some build options for the SR weapons, and you can raise your combat score by leveling these, fully awakening these, then equipping them with really nice matrices. But just know that ultimately you are working towards SSR weapons slash characters, because those will scale the best and will be the most useful when you get later on. Now let's talk about how to make a team. I'll put on screen my cheat sheet for how to build each character and what some team comps are. But the fundamentals for building a team comp go like this. You want to choose a main weapon, and this is the weapon that you're going to spend most of your time in. It's going to be your charge weapon, your main DPS. It's going to be how you spend your free time in. So if the boss gets staggered or stunned, or there's a Fantasia and you're not looking to use any specific ability or swap skill or change skill, you're going to be using this weapon primarily. And this usually is a damage weapon for many builds. There might be some for healing or tanking that you use otherwise, but it's going to be your main weapon that you're using all the time. Then on top of that, you want to have good utility slash synergy. There's one really powerful synergy that exists in the game right now for Volt weapons. And then you're going to want some shield break. If you look at the weapons, the stats that they have listed, they're going to list shatter and charge. And this means the shatter is how much damage they do to shields, and the charge is how quickly they charge up your passive swap skill meter so that you can use those special abilities that you get when you do a change skill. So you want to have enough shatter or shield break in your build so that when a boss or a mob regenerates their shield for some reason, you're not trying to chew through it with a damage weapon that may have low shatter, and then you end up losing a lot of uptime for your pure damage. Two of the best shield break slash shatter weapons in the game are going to be Meryl and King, the Scythe and the Ice Greatsword or Claymore. These are amazing at shatter, and honestly, the Claymore Rosy Edge for Meryl is probably the best shatter weapon in the game when it's upgraded and properly equipped. It just does so much shatter and it's amazing. But just keep in mind that when you're building a build, minus the builds that are main healing or main utility, you do want to have a lot of shatter in there, or at least some that you can work into the build. On the sheet, you also list the character build, so the character itself, and then I've put in the ideal awakening level. This is when you awaken a weapon slash character, you get more and more benefits on it, so they get stronger and stronger. Some of the characters, some of the weapons, like Samir's pistols, are just good out of the gate. They don't really, you know, they don't require the advancement. It's nice to have the awakening levels because the damage keeps going up and up, and you want to eventually get them to 6-star for most of them. Some of them you don't really need to, but Samir's, for example, are good out of the gate. But when you're looking at some of the other ones like Shiro's Chakram or the Crow Dual Blades, Some of these require a higher awakening because there's a certain awakening benefit that you need before that weapon starts to become, you know, optimal. It starts to become effective. And before that awakening level, it's not as effective, and you'll feel that difference in strength. So just as a reference, I've put this on the cheat sheet so you know what awakening level you're shooting for to make that weapon feel like it's supposed to, including the SR weapons, which some of them you need to fully awaken them anyway, otherwise they feel pretty bad. But just keep that in mind that when you get these SSRs, some of them require a few awakening levels before they start to feel good. And the first build, the first team comp we'll talk about is going to be the Vault Synergy. This is the best in the game right now until we get more characters and more builds. And the reason this is so good is because of Nemesis. If you look at Nemesis, Nemesis's weapons, the Venus on this list, you'll see that she has an elemental resonance, which when you have 2 or more Volt weapons equipped. So if you have a damage Volt weapon like the Crow Thunderblades or Samir's pistols, you will get a 15% attack bonus to all Volt damage, and you'll get Volt resistance as well. So it's very common to see people running Venus, even with higher awakening. When she starts getting the static pulse, Nemesis weapons can go from being a support weapon to actually dealing decent damage as well. But you'll see a lot of people running the dual Volt weapons with the Venus elemental resonance, which this ends up getting nerfed later in later CN builds. But you'll run this with the Crow build or the Samir pistols for maximum damage. And then as we talked about, we know this, you're going to run some shield break on top of it. So either Crow or Samir, then you put Nemesis in for the elemental resonance, and then you want shield break with either Crow or Meryl. There are some other options you can work in for shield break, but these are your two best. Next, if you're looking for a tank build, a fortitude build, you'll want to use Huma. She's one of the best in the game. Meryl's also really good, but if you're looking for the bonus that you get when you put your team together, which is this screen right here, you can see that if you have one of each type, you get balanced bonus, the weapon resonance. If you get 2 defense, you get fortitude. If you get 2 attack, you get attack, and then 2 benediction, you get the 2 benediction bonus. So you want to take advantage of these bonuses. Usually you'll be one of these bottom 3 instead of balanced. Healers will run 2 benediction, tanks will run 2 fortitude, and attack running the double attack for the extra final damage, which is nice. So if you're looking for the attack bonus, you want to run the double attack there. And then for fortitude, since you want 2 tanks on top of that, you're going to be running with a Huma, and Meryl is probably the best that we can make right now, especially since Meryl is really good at Awakening 1. Huma is also very good at Awakening 1, and they can be pretty cheap to build, all things considered. And then you can work in more shield break with a King, or you can even just work in with some support / bonus damage with Nemesis. And lastly, some kind of very meta builds for healing. Again, you want the double benediction, and luckily Zero and his cube are healing. You will probably hear people just rag on Zero a lot. His weapon is odd. It's something that I like a lot. I like obscure weapons with different playstyles, and maybe you are that type too. But he has a way to farm, AFK farm honey. He stands on a swarm and he gets the orbs that rotate around him, and you can leave your game on overnight and farm honey, and people just call him the honey farm with no bonus or whatever. But I think for the game right now, he's super good. He gives you a lot of bonuses. If you get him to Awakening 3, he can heal people while they have the shield on. He can drop consumables, which can be quite substantial, and he can deal some decent damage if you have him built out properly. So for healing, you can run Nemesis and Zero, or Coco Ritter and Zero. I think right out of the gate, Coco Ritter's probably the best support character / weapon that we have. It's a aura around her that heals, and she scales really well, and she even works well with her own matrices. And then as a third character, I like mixing in Shiro. Nice shatter, good damage. You can get some buffs in there as well. She has some good team buffs from her chakram. Or if you're running Nemesis, you can work in Samir, which is actually kind of nice because if you're running a benediction build, your damage might be a little bit lower. But if you have the Volt synergy with Nemesis, you can work in Samir, which is range damage. It's good that if you need, get an opportunity to pump some damage, you can switch over to Samir. Samir's great at Awakening 0, super good. Or you can get Tsubasa, which, like Shiro, has some damage amp on her. So if you get the Awakening for Tsubasa's bow, If you do dodge attacks, you can scale damage. It basically gives damage amp to your team. So Shiro and Tsubasa, great for mixing into support builds, because then you'll be running with Zero and Coco Ritter, or Zero and Nemesis to heal your team and keep them sustained. And then when you get the opportunity, you can switch to Shiro or Tsubasa and buff them up and damage amp and do things like that. So you can play that support playstyle expertly, and your team's gonna love you for it. When it comes to matrices, the best advice I can give, most of the characters in the game do best with their own matrice. So if you are Shiro, Shiro does great with the 4x, you know, Zero does great with the 4x, Zero matrice, that sort of thing. But if you're looking for optimization, I have that listed on the sheet here. One of the best damage ones is going to be the Samir matrices, especially when you get the 4-set bonus. It just gives you great damage scaling. It's really easy to build up, and it's universal. So I would recommend getting Samir for Samir, Tsubasa, Crow, and you can even run it as a 2-set for some of the slower characters like Crow, or like Meryl, or even Shiro as a 2-set or a 4-set, because it just is that good. But for Nemesis, Coco Ritter, Huna, and for Zero, I recommend just running with their own matrice. It works great with their kit. It functions awesome. Even the Nemesis matrice only works with her on the 4-set, because you need to have the electrode that she creates. And then just to show you, if you want some swap-ins for some of these characters, if you're not getting to these SSRs as quickly as you'd like, of course, it's going to take time for a lot of people. You can swap in. Bai Ling is great if you get her fully awakened with her own matrices for the SR quality. It gives you Grievous. She has decent damage scaling, and if you can, move her dodge skill and her charge skills well, she actually does pretty respectable damage at 6 awakening. Then you can run with Echo. I wouldn't recommend it. The Shatter is really good, but the damage is hard to confirm, and she's a little short pinpoint range. She works great with the when you shatter, you get the poison effect matrix. And then with NA, she is decently tanky. She's a good swap in for Huna if you're looking for a fortitude build right now. But you'll start to see her fall off. She does great with the 3 awakening bonus that she gets. Hilda is pretty hard to use, but again, it's okay if you need to use her for now. She works great with her own matrix, which gives her damage when there's no enemies nearby. And actually, if you get her to 6 awakening too, her ability to go into turret mode has a short enough cooldown where it starts to become more reasonable. If you try Hilda with no awakening, you'll see how long the cooldown is and how hard it is to use her turret mode. It's just so dang slow. And then the last one is Pepper, a great stand-in for Benediction for Zero, Nemesis, or Coco Ritter. Doesn't scale as well. She does well with 1 star because she'll get extra bonuses from that. Any awakening after 1 star is just bonus for her. The one thing I don't like about Pepper's staff is that it's very ground target oriented. So you'll notice that when you're healing, Zero can just apply a heal through his shield, which just locks onto the target. Nemesis gets it to bounce. Coco Ritter has a massive aura that moves with her. But Pepper, you have to place it on the ground and hope your teammates stand in it, which is never a good feeling for a support character. So you want to replace that over time as you get, the better SSRs. But she is a great stand-in early on, and she does well with her own matrix, the Pepper 3x set bonus. And that's all I wanted to cover today. You'll find the cheat sheet linked down below in the description, and I'll probably post this somewhere so everyone can see it. Of course, there are more builds than I have listed here. This is a starting point for people that are just getting into Tower Fantasy or wondering what to do and where to go. And I hope that I've included this in a simple enough format where it's digestible. It gives you what you need. It gives you the most important information, and it's something that you can reference while you're playing. So thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.